I don't believe I've ever told this story, and I don't believe that I'm actually going to have this come out of my mouth. 93, 94, I was introduced to AOL, and if you're under 25, go look it up.
You've got mail.
Dude, this thing claims I have mail.
It's amazing what we can do with computers these days.
I opened up the AOL interface. I found myself in this space where there were people chatting and this, that, and the other, and I simply asked, I said, is this the World Wide Web? I understand that we did not have the internet. Like, this is very early days. And some person just said, no, idiot, this is AOL. If you want the World Wide Web, go click here, and that took you to a browser. And I was like, oh, okay. That's where I was, Dawn, right? I was, what is AI, right? Logitech wins a major award. AVWeek acquires another trade show. And what happens when your favorite product gets discontinued? All that and more next on AVWeek. This is AVWeek, episode 766, recorded Friday, April 24th, 2026. AI smattering. This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. This week, AVWeek makes a surprise acquisition. The AV user group plants its flag in Dublin, and Logitech takes home internet gold. Let's get into it. First up, the NAB show 2026 is in the books, and the headline is a tale of two trends. Total attendance is up. Global, not so much. This year's show at the Las Vegas Convention Center drew more than 58,000 registered attendees. That is up from 55,000 in 2025. Exhibitor count also climbed. More than 1,100 companies were on the show floor. 132 of them were first-timers. That is the healthy sign. That's a good sign. Here's the other side. International attendance dropped from 26% last year to 22% in 2026. That number, the number of countries represented, fell from more than 160 down to 146. Press attendance also dipped from over 1,000 credentialed media to 911. AVNation, of course, was one of those. What does this mean? It means the show is not shrinking, but its global gravitational pull is softening, and that is worth watching, especially as trade headwinds and international travel costs continue to be factors. On the content side, 550 sessions, more than 630 speakers, 11 stages, covering everything from AI to the creator economy. AVWeek just made a move that raised a few eyebrows, including mine. The Audiovisual and Integrated Experience Association has acquired Lightapalooza. That's the residential lighting conference and trade show that's been quietly building steam since 2022, if you were not aware. HTSA, the Home Technology Specialist of America, built this event from scratch. Now, 4 years ago, it launched, had 225 attendees. This past spring, more than 1,600 participants. Custom integrators, lighting manufacturers, designers, architects, everybody under the sun that has anything to do with home lighting. And now it belongs to AVWeek. The plan is to co-locate Lightapalooza alongside InfoComm 2027 in Orlando, Florida. That puts a fast-growing residential lighting event directly inside Pro AV's biggest tent. Lighting is absolutely one of the fastest-growing categories in residential custom integration. Again, InfoComm is a Pro AV show. By bringing Lightapalooza into its portfolio, AVWeek is planting a flag in a market they have shied away from historically. Samsung dropped a major announcement at CinemaCon 2026 last week in Vegas. The company has unveiled its largest Onyx Cinema LED display ever. 14 meters screen width. That, just for context, the previous biggest one was 10 meters. This new format is built for premium large format auditoriums. Specs are also impressive. 3.3 millimeter pixel pitch, support for 4K and 120 hertz, peak brightness up to 300 nits. Just for the record, I have seen 300 nits in a dark theater, which is where the Onyx started. That is super bright. 100% color volume at peak brightness, and here's the real flex. The system is fully modular. You add cabinets to the sides and bottom, and you can scale it all the way up to 20 meters. That is more than double the total screen area. Pathé in Morocco now operates 12 Onyx screens across 4 auditoriums, the largest Onyx footprint outside of the U.S. In Europe. In the U.S., Trilith Cinemas in Fayetteville, Georgia, was the first American theater to install the latest Onyx generation back in December. Samsung is positioning Onyx for live sports, concerts, gaming events, and corporate presentations. Our friends over at the AV User Group is growing, and its newest chapter just opened in Dublin, Ireland. That brings the global chapter count to 9, 3 in the UK and Ireland, London, Scotland, and now Dublin, 4 in North America, New York, Chicago, San Jose, San Francisco, and Toronto. You also have 2 in Asia Pacific, Singapore, and Sydney. Next up for the folks, Mumbai. The group has plans to expand into India next year. The AV User Group's model is peer-to-peer end users, not vendors, sharing insights in private, off-the-record settings. Now, finance professionals, big tech, higher education, all sorts of end users. It is a safe space to compare notes, and apparently, Dublin's AV community was ready. And finally, the internet's biggest night, the 30th annual Webby Awards just announced its 2026 winners. And if you work in AV or tech, there is a lot to pay attention here. Let's start with Logitech. Their campaign titled Bye Bye Dongle took home both the Webby Award and the People's Voice Award for B2B branded content. As a double win for the folks over at Logi. And in a category as crowded as B2B marketing, that is no small thing. The campaign is exactly what the title promises, a direct, witty challenge to the legacy of dongles in the modern workspace. It resonated with judges and public voters alike. It's also a reminder that in enterprise tech, great storytelling still wins. Beyond Logitech, there's a few other names worth noting. Claude Code, the AI coding tool from Anthropic, won the Webby and People's Voice Award for Best Product or Service in AI. Google Gemini 3 took the win for Best AI Technical Achievement, and Google overall was named Brand of the Year with 13 Webby wins across the board. The ceremony takes place May 11th in New York City. That is your AV news for the week. Stick around for this week's Roundtable, where we will tackle the end of the Surface Hub and what you want or need from AI in AV sessions at Infocom. That conversation is next. This is AV Week.
Hey listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.
All right, welcome back with us to discuss a couple more stories we've got. First and foremost, you know or you love her, AV Dawn Mead. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me, as usual.
Absolutely. And a young man who celebrated a birthday this week. I'm not going to say how many that is, but it might be half a century. Joel Carroll.
Why, thank you, Tim. Yeah, it may have been half a century, maybe not. I can't admit it, but the gray in the beard that you've provided to me probably should give some indication, Tim. Always good to see you.
Did you blame me for your gray?
I absolutely did. You know, before I knew you 10, 20 years ago, whatever it was beautiful. And actually, I didn't have a beard.
You didn't have
20
a beard,
years
yeah.
ago. No.
You started growing out a beard when you met me. That's odd. It's an odd thing to say.
No,
Okay.
I did not. I did not grow it out. I didn't grow it out because of you.
Okay.
I grew it out in spite of you.
In spite of, because
I'm not
I can't grow one. So that is
exactly.
100% makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. First story. Actually, we probably could have done it last week. I did it on the news break before last week's AV Week. But if you missed that, Microsoft is saying bye-bye to their good old Surface Hub. Surface Hub 3 is the final one. There will be no Surface Hub 4. It's not coming. Nothing. This product launched 8 years ago, 12 years ago now. I remember because when Microsoft first came out with it, it was the first time Microsoft had a booth at Infocom. It was Infocom Vegas, And it was the same year as the World Cup, just similar to this year. And about 2 weeks before they were set to show it, Microsoft's like, yeah, no, we're not going to come, but we've still got this big old booth. So I don't know if you guys remember this. Microsoft turned it into a giant living room with really comfy couches and big TVs that we could all watch the World Cup, right? Well, that has ended. That at least that part has ended. Microsoft has committed to firmware and security updates through December 2030, so that it did carry the two. That is 4 years from now. If you've got one, you are not completely abandoned, at least not until 4 years. Microsoft has been quietly shifting its messaging from premium standalone collaboration devices to quote unquote certified Teams rooms endpoints, ones that they aren't making. The market of third-party vendors supplying that ecosystem has obviously grown significantly. We've got a bunch of them. You're going to see a bunch of them in InfoComm, certainly. But quite frankly, the Service Hub was expensive. It was niche. And it couldn't quite keep up in a world where the Teams rooms hardware ecosystems had exploded with options at every price point. Dawn, we're going to start on this with you, simply because you have been both an integrator as well as an end user. When you've got a product like this, and I'm not saying that Dawn's company had a product like this, but when you have a product like this and you're, quite frankly, the manufacturer exit stage left, at least from the hardware side, how does that change the way that you think about standardizing? How do you think about collaboration, refreshes going forward? What do you do when your prom date leaves you?
When I first saw this article, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, all the IT departments and half the VPs at the giant corporations are losing their mind right now. Because most of them, including my former employer, they just loved buying those Surface Hubs because, oh, we've got Teams and we can get the Surface Hub and it all comes from IT and we don't have to hire anyone for AV and we don't have to think about AV because AV is scary and we don't know what it is. And it just made it super easy for them to just pick up some SKUs and make it go, and it worked on the IT model more for them. So right now they're probably starting to be concerned if they've heard the news already. I mean, from a standardization aspect, and we've talked about this over the years, Tim, you know, I'm a big fan of make things that play nice with others, but give me tons of options. You know, I don't want to be locked into, sorry folks, just a Mac or Apple ecosystem. I don't want to be locked into, back in the day, a Packard Bell computer ecosystem. Anything that's proprietary, that doesn't play nice across the board, it's going to be a problem. Because if you've got that interoperability and you've got the options, it gives you flexibility. So if your vendor takes their ball and goes home, like Microsoft is doing by stopping making these, you've got a ton of options. You're not dead in the water. And it can be maybe not direct replaced, but you can still get the functionality that you need using other options and without having to redo your entire universe. So all the IT folks are freaking out. Integrators, this could be a big opportunity if, you know, you have these customers, because they won't know what's going on.
Well, that's actually a really good point, is that this is more, it could be less about what Microsoft is doing and more about what integrators can do with this, because you're right, that is actually a really good opportunity for them to say, hey, when you're ready to refresh this one out, you know, come talk to us and we'll have some option for you by then. Joel, speaking of refresh, how would you advise IT firms? How would you advise higher ed folks that do indeed have these deployed enterprise-wide as they get into that refresh, as they start getting into, 2030, 2031, whenever Microsoft finally says bye-bye completely? How would you walk them through that process? Like both from an evaluation standpoint for the replacement, right? But also what that process looks like.
It's a good question. Everybody's going to be slightly different, right? If you're going to be enterprise or if you're going to be, educational. And education has a very specific refresh cycle. You know, in many schools that you're looking at, they're 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. There's some that are 15 years. So come 2030, they're going to be at the end of in the middle of a refresh cycle if they have these installed. So that's going to create a challenge. Enterprise tends to be able to refresh, 3 to 5 years or, quicker in some cases. So it's a difficult thing because it's like the good old days of the late 90s when people would buy a home theater in the box and then the cassette tape inside the home theater in the box breaks. Now what do you do, right? So it's a similar kind of concept. Like how do you manage that? The display itself probably isn't going to fail. So one of the ways to do that is add some additional components to the room. So you're no longer using the interior computer and some of those other things, but the display is still there. And you're probably going to get some more longevity out of the display itself. Leave that on the wall and plug something else in. It's got an HDMI input and a bunch of other capability. You can connect external touch devices to it so they can interact. So those are some of the benefits that you still have. Yes, it was a very expensive display, but why get rid of it? It's still there. It still looks good up on the wall.
I have a reason. Security. Because the one magical date here is 2030. And not to be stupid or simple here, but that sucker's plugged into the network somewhere. It has to be, right? Because it's a Teams device.
Correct.
Are you suggesting keep it on the wall but unplug the network jack then?
I would go farther. I would keep it on the wall, but I'd unplug the network jack, yes, and I would block it in any sort of traffic so it can't get to it or through it either through network. Because if there's a network jack on something, all of us are going to at some point inevitably try to plug that in. So through the IT security, you have the ability to go in and say, look, block this device so nothing can happen to it. Lock it out 100% because security is key. Now, if you're in an area like you're speaking, Tim, and let's say it's an enterprise boardroom where they're speaking about like the most important things, let's call it oil and gas, and absolutely nothing can ever leak out. Like I would have that out of there before the security updates are no longer going to be, pushed, right? I would like year before, you want to make sure it's ready because we know a year before probably is not going to happen, but let's plan for that. They should start looking at what to pull it out for now. The thing to me about this is it really does show that software is kind of the key component of what Microsoft is going back after. And this is not the first time we've seen Microsoft and other companies do these kind of things. They get into the hardware game, they play a bit, they leave the hardware game, they come back to the hardware game, right? Like, and they didn't make bad product, don't get me wrong, but that their core focus is the software. So my suggestion would be to these other companies moving forward, pay attention to the companies whose core focus is the hardware, use the software that you want and make sure that they're compatible. And you had mentioned some of it a moment ago, the MTR rooms are still going to be licensed and certified products through Microsoft. So find the hardware company that's going to stick around and use that. And then their software is a layer that sits on top of on the technology. But security is going to be important. You bring up a really good point about that one.
Security is going to be huge. And that's where you're going to come. And as an integrator, I'm giving you advice. Don't just go to your integrator or to your customers and say, hey, Hub's going away. Let us give you options to replace it on this refresh. Go to your customers now. And every time you talk to them between now and 2030 and tell them, hey, by the way, this is coming. And even if you don't want to refresh the room, start thinking about the security ramifications, because if you're in government, if you're in defense and aerospace, if you're in finance, if you're in medical, I mean, there's so many industries where the security aspect is mission critical. And you run into this tension, having recently been on the end user side, between we don't have money and we're going to put off refreshes as long as possible, and it could be 15 years between refreshes in rooms, and hey, security is going away and this is going to be a big problem and we need to think about this. So if you let your end users know now, they can start making that noise to their budgeting people, to their IT people if they're AV folks, and so on, so that they're not caught unawares and then potentially have a liability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dom brings up an interesting point, and it'll be the only time I bring up, public news ever on this, Tim. Fox or CNN, one of them, actually had an article today that a CIO was talking about the concern about security in the office space and even personal security because of bad actors overseas coming after us, almost as a different type of warfare. And so, from that security standpoint, looking at it of even training the people, like we're talking about if the display's on the wall, what type of training can we provide even from us as AV integrators? Can we provide training to our end users And maybe that's even a path of revenue where we sell them, hey, do not plug in this, do not do this. Here are the very simple things you don't do to protect themselves. Because I do feel that that's going to become, especially with the advent of AI, it's going to be a predominant thing we're going to never stop talking about.
Tim, I think you have a whole special on cybersecurity that we could put together here, and I'm sure Joel and I both volunteer as tribute to be on that panel.
I am certain. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, which is fine. I think it's cute, Joel, that you said bad actors overseas. Yeah, there's as many bad actors inside our borders as there is outside of our borders in the States. So, and I'll leave it at that before I get, yeah. Infocom 2026 is going all in on artificial intelligence, and for the first time, it feels like a theme more than a bolt-on. The show, of course, runs 13th through the 19th in Las Vegas. Exhibit 17th through the 19th, we will, of course, be there, with bells on. AVIXA is actually rolling out a brand new AI accelerator program, a dedicated full-day track built specifically around practical implementation for integrators and technology managers. On the keynote stage, you've, of course, got Microsoft and Cisco and Shure laying out how intelligent systems are reshaping communication and collaboration. You've got education sessions that have topics like AI-powered content strategies, digital signage, ethical AI in public displays, all kinds of conversations that end users have been wanting to have for at least 2 to 4 years. Joel, first overarching question. If you're going into Infocom, what do you want, need, and desire around AI coming out of that show?
What I don't want is hype as I leave the show. I don't want hype. I want to see what are real world applications that have truly happened. I don't want to see, machine learning type things that are labeled as AI. What is AI really doing? So I would like to see true on the show examples of what AI has done, how it's been deployed, how people are utilizing it. And I think that's pretty key. And we've missed that, I think, in the last couple of years. We've talked a lot about what we're going to do, the theory, but we've had a year now. So some of that theory should be an application. I think one of the big things for me coming out of it, though, is the manufacturers directly explaining to us as we're walking around, where is their AI being processed? And then who owns and where is that data managed? So is it processed locally? That's always a concern.
Yep.
Is it leaving, being processed somewhere else and coming back? Not uncommon, but if it is, how is the security there? I think that, and a lot of us in the AV industry understand it, but I think the vast majority of just say most people who may walk around the show don't. They see the feature, they see the excitement, they see the value of it, but they don't necessarily know what the implications could be when they utilize it in their space and what that security constraint is going to be when they bring it back. That, to me, I think is going to be key. Just above and beyond the use case, where is it? How does it work? Where is it processed? How does it stay secure? And what are your mechanisms to ensure that anything I say, do, is not going to be able to be used to track not even me, but just the business and how often we turn on or off the lights and all these other things. Nobody needs to know all that because every data piece is power now, right? So that's key to me right now. That's what I'd really like to see as the companies talk truly about that.
Okay. Don, same question. You're walking in as either an integrator or an end user, and you're walking to that show, and they're like, big banner over the entrance, AI and AV. What do you want, need, and desire in that aspect?
Well, I could talk about this for quite a while because between you, me, and the wall...
We only have 30 minutes on the program and Mitchell gets cranky.
I may or may not have been part of an AVIXA panel discussing AI some months ago, trying to come up with what end users and manufacturers and integrators are looking for in AV. So I'm interested to go to Infocom and see what of our couple of days of discussion they ended up using. But I mean, the problem is with AI, you're going to run the gamut from, I don't know anything about this and it's big scary, so you need AI for dummies on the one hand, to, I use it every day and I use it for all these use cases and I have different AIs for different parts of my job. And our friend Mr. Abraham uses AI for everything. And, there's all kinds of levels that we're going to run into of folks at the show. And much like most times at the show, you can't make everyone happy. So, personally, I would like mid-level, how to use it, what uses there are, new possible uses or new ways of using it that I haven't thought of yet. And that's kind of what I want. Someone else may need something from, what is AI? Where do I get, like back in the days of the internet when it first came out, how do I get to the internet? Is there a disk that comes in the mail? It's some people are at that level. Other people are like, hey, I use all these 12 tools. What can we do? And as a manufacturer, what are you doing with it? And is that customizable? I have people that are real AI heads that want to get in there and like tinker with the AI in their product. And, how much are we going to let them? So I don't envy AVIXA trying to put the program together. I also don't envy the manufacturers. They're going to have to be dealing with these folks in a few years as it becomes more and more common. So the answer is yes. I don't know.
I don't believe I've ever told this story, and I don't believe that I'm actually going to have this come out of my mouth, but I will admit something because Dawn just reminded me of something. 93, 94, I was introduced to AOL, and if you're under 25, go look it up.
You've got mail.
You've got mail. And I opened up the AOL interface, right? And 30 years later, I understand what I did, but then I was very, very naive. And I found myself in this space where there were people chatting and this, that, and the other. And I simply asked, I said, is this the World Wide Web? Like I was 22, right? And understand that we did not have the internet. Like this is very early days. And some person, I don't know, guy or girl, I have no idea how old, they just said, no, idiot, this is AOL. If you want the World Wide Web, go click here, and that took you to a browser. And I was like, oh, okay. That's where I was, Dawn, right? I was, what is AI, right? Now,
well, and if it was 94, you were a teenager because we're the same age, and I know how old I was in 94. So late teens. We were in college, but
we were in college, yeah. So yeah, late teens. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, you're right. There is that level, and if VIX is trying to serve 35,000 people that are in that spectrum, is it better to hit down the middle of the road, right? And you're gonna go, oh, you're gonna get some people that go, I know this, whatever. You're gonna some people that are gonna trying to catch up like a little toddler trying to run with their dad. That middle of the road, is it better to do that, or is it better to do kind of the extremes? Here, what is AI, and over here, let's get attract the super users. What would be the best kind of option there?
At the risk of being even geekier than you all know I am, in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a skill you can take called smatterings for learning languages. I think they need to take the smatterings approach, kind of the shotgun approach of a little bit of everything, maybe a little bit of AI for dummies, maybe a little bit of the deep stuff, and everything in the range in between, maybe a class, maybe two classes, or one panel, two panels. Then they can see where the bulk of their attendees come when they get all those surveys that we forget to fill out at the end of the day, and plan accordingly for the next one. Because I don't think when it's something so new, you can't pinpoint where people are going to be and what they're going to want. Even if someone might be experienced, they might want the For Dummies version, or vice versa. They might want to sink or swim, get thrown in with the sharks. So
here's the thing: even the For Dummies, because I have read plenty of the actual For Dummies books. Even the For Dummies, if you are experienced in that area, you're going to pick something up that you may have missed when your first training sessions or your first education in them.
So with AI, in order to get it to be successful, you've got to find a way to remove the fear. And by removing the fear, you have to then build respect. And that's the only way we're going to ever see it take off, I think, in our industry in a way that is serious. It's going to happen one way or the other. But if we can remove the fear, then we're going to see that many more people jump in on it and start to utilize it and start to play with it.
All right. That would be a good place to stop. Thank you both so much. Dawn Mead, somebody wants to connect with you or hire you because you're awesome. How do they do that?
You can find me on most of the socials at AVDawn, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Dawn Meade, DAWNMEADE. And I would love to talk to you about opportunities.
Mr. Carroll, you're also equally awesome and available. So how do people connect with you or hire you?
Easiest way to find me is typically through LinkedIn, Joel Carroll, or thejoelcarroll.com is a website as well.
All right. Apparently you don't want to come on AVWeek because you're unemployed. That's what I'm getting out of this sample size. So,
man, I do want to come on AVWeek because I'm unemployed. The more people that hear that might get some offers, you know.
It's a good opportunity, Tim, to see you and others.
All right. Don't follow me. My name is Tim Albright. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me anywhere, apparently, at all. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Holy cow, has Mitchell been busy this week. Not only did he do all of our videos from NAB 2026, you can go there and check out our coverage of that show. But he also cranked out a brand new EdTech, where our host, Erin Mary Moran, takes a look at e-paper in higher education. If you would like to follow me and read things that I write about that have nothing to do with technology, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you would like.
And he is far too Midwestern to brag about himself or talk about such things. But if you do follow Tim on LinkedIn, our man wrote a book. So go check that out because he's awesome and he's smart.
It's not ready yet. It's not ready yet.
That doesn't mean they can't pre-order.
Which freaks the crap out of me, by the way. But it is in the editor's hand. End of May is when it's going to be. All right, go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control programming and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.